It was a quiet evening in Ocala, Florida, a town where days are typically uneventful and nights even quieter. But on this fateful evening, that tranquility was shattered. A life was lost, a family torn apart, and a community was left grappling with questions that had no easy answers. What began as an ordinary day spiraled into a devastating tragedy, capturing national attention and sparking fierce debates that rage on even now. What would you do if a simple neighborhood disagreement turned deadly? Would you stand your ground or walk away? Let's uncover the truth together. Basco politely. Before the headlines, before the tragedy, Ajike A.J. Owens was a name known for something far more meaningful. She was the embodiment of resilience, kindness, and unyielding love. A devoted mother, a cherished friend, and an irreplaceable member of her community. Born on January 13, 1988, in Fort Lauderdale, Florida, AJ was raised in a home filled with strong family values. These principles, love, community, and faith, were woven into the very fabric of her life and would guide her through every challenge she faced. She graduated from Vanguard High School in 2006, where she was remembered for her infectious smile and her ability to light up any room. But AJ's greatest legacy wouldn't be found in her achievements. It would be in the love she gave and the lives she touched. AJ was a mother first and foremost. Raising 4 children as a single parent, she embraced her role with unparalleled dedication. Her children weren't just her priority, they were her purpose. She poured her heart into their lives, ensuring they felt supported, nurtured, and deeply loved. She was their biggest fan, their loudest cheerleader, and their fiercest protector. Whether it was late-night homework sessions or baking cookies for a school fundraiser, AJ showed up for her children every single day. AJ wasn't just a mother, she was a mentor, a guide, and a source of unwavering strength. Her children were a testament to her love and resilience, and they were her proudest achievement. But AJ's love didn't stop with her family. She was the heart of her community, always ready to lend a hand or offer a kind word. She connected deeply with other single mothers, offering advice, encouragement, and friendship. To many, she was more than a neighbor. She was a lifeline. She was the glue that held people together, organizing small gatherings and stepping in to help wherever she was needed. AJ's compassion extended far beyond her front door, leaving a mark on everyone who had the privilege of knowing her. Faith was AJ's anchor. A devout Christian, she believed in the power of kindness, perseverance, and community. Her faith wasn't just a personal belief, it was a guiding light that shaped her life and the lives of her children. Outside of her family and community, AJ excelled in her career as a manager in the hospitality industry. Her colleagues admired her dedication and positivity, traits that carried her through even the toughest challenges. But even a life as bright as AJ's can encounter shadows. In her neighborhood, tensions were simmering, tensions that would soon reach a breaking point. What began as small disputes was building into something far more dangerous. What do you think shapes a person into someone as selfless and strong as AJ? Share your thoughts below. On the other side of this door lived Susan Lawrence. Her life seemed ordinary, her presence unassuming. But as her neighbors would come to learn, there was more to Susan than met the eye. Susan Lawrence was born on July 23, 1964, in Spring Hill, Florida. She graduated from Hodges University and spent much of her adult life working in the insurance industry. By the time she retired, Susan had settled into a quieter life in Ocala, seeking the solace of a private and solitary existence. But behind her reserved exterior was a woman who often found herself at odds with the world around her. To her neighbors, Susan was known for her reclusive nature and her quick temper, especially when it came to disruptions near her home. Her behavior became predictable, a quick scolding here, a call to law enforcement there. But while her actions were unpleasant, no one imagined they would lead to something far more serious. Susan lived alone by choice and rarely interacted with her neighbors. Her solitary lifestyle seemed to amplify her frustrations, creating a growing divide between herself and the community around her. She saw the world around her as a source of irritation rather than connection, and her isolation only deepened as time went on. Two lives, two very different stories, one defined by love and community, the other by conflict and solitude. These lives were about to collide in a way that would forever change this quiet neighborhood. Have you ever known someone who seemed to thrive on conflict? How would you deal with such a person in your life? Let us know below. In most neighborhoods, scenes like this are a symbol of harmony. A grassy field where children play freely, where neighbors exchange smiles and pleasantries. But in this particular corner of Ocala, Florida, beneath the surface of suburban tranquility, tensions were quietly brewing. These tensions, seemingly harmless at first, would grow to define a tragedy no one saw coming. The grassy field that separated two apartment complexes was a place of simple joy. Children from the neighborhood gathered here daily, their laughter echoing across the buildings. For them, it was just a field, a space to run, play, and be carefree. But for others, it was something entirely different, a source of irritation, disruption, and eventually conflict. To Susan Lawrence, the field was more than just an open space. Its proximity to her apartment made it a flashpoint for her frustrations, particularly when the children's playful noise reached her ears. What others saw as innocent fun, Susan perceived as an invasion of her peace. Over time, these minor frustrations began to escalate. What started as occasional complaints about noise turned into frequent confrontations. Susan wasn't shy about voicing her displeasure. She would scold the children directly, often accusing them of trespassing or disrupting her day. Parents, protective of their children, began stepping in. What might have ended with a polite conversation quickly turned into heated arguments. Tensions grew, and with them a pattern began to emerge. Susan's dissatisfaction with her neighbors didn't stop at verbal complaints. Over time, law enforcement became a regular presence in the area, responding to calls about trespassing and disturbances. Most of these calls led to nothing more than warnings, but they left an indelible mark on the community. Some neighbors felt that Susan's actions were excessive, while others dismissed them as harmless quirks of an overly particular woman. But for the families who bore the brunt of her frustration, it was more than an inconvenience. It was a strain on their daily lives. Despite the growing tension, life in the neighborhood continued. Children still played in the field, laughter still filled the air, and neighbors carried on with their routines. Yet, beneath the surface, the cracks were beginning to show. What seemed like small, isolated incidents were building towards something far more destructive. Do you think conflicts between neighbors are inevitable, or can they be resolved peacefully? Let us know your thoughts below. It was an ordinary evening in Ocala. Children were playing in the grassy field, their carefree energy filling the air. But this time, something was different. Frustration had been brewing, and it was about to boil over in a way no one could have imagined. Susan Lawrence, watching from her apartment, reportedly threw a pair of roller skates toward AJ's children. The skates struck one of them, and an iPad they had brought with them was damaged in the commotion. Startled and upset, the children did what any child would. They ran home to their mother. When her children came running through the door, visibly shaken, they told AJ what had happened. Their words painted a picture of fear and hurt. A neighbor throwing objects at them, an iPad broken, and their sense of safety shattered. For AJ, this wasn't just about a damaged item. It was about protecting her children and demanding accountability. Like any protective mother, AJ couldn't ignore what had happened. She decided to confront Susan, to get answers and ensure her children knew they were safe. But as she walked towards Susan's apartment, accompanied by her 10-year-old son, she had no way of knowing just how quickly things would spiral out of control. As AJ approached Susan's door, her thoughts were likely a mix of frustration and resolve. She had come to defend her children and demand accountability for what had been done to them. It was a confrontation that any parent would understand, a moment of standing up for what's right. In that moment, the calm suburban evening was replaced with a sense of unease. AJ stood outside the door, her son by her side, unaware of what was about to happen. Inside, Susan's frustrations and fears seemed to reach a breaking point. Was this confrontation inevitable? Could it have been avoided? For AJ, it was about defending her children. For Susan, it was the culmination of years of conflict. And for everyone else, it was a moment that would define lives and leave a neighborhood forever changed. If you were in AJ's shoes, how would you have handled this situation? Share your thoughts in the comments below. What happened next would change the lives of everyone involved forever. A single moment, a single action, and a single shot that left a family shattered and a community in mourning. As AJ stood outside, accompanied by her son, she knocked on the door, calling for Susan to address what had happened. What unfolded in the next few seconds would be irreversible. Susan fired a single shot through her locked metal door. The bullet struck AJ in the chest. Her 10-year-old son, standing just feet away, witnessed it all. His cries for help echoed through the night, a plea no child should ever have to make. Neighbors rushed to call 911 as AJ lay bleeding on the ground. Her son stood by her side, desperate and powerless. When police and paramedics arrived, they worked quickly to stabilize AJ, but the damage was too severe. She was rushed to the hospital, but despite their efforts, AJ was pronounced dead upon arrival. A vibrant life extinguished in an instant, leaving her children without a mother and a community searching for answers. Inside her apartment, Susan remained. She made 2 911 calls, one before the shooting reporting trespassing and another after, stating that she had fired in self-defense. But for investigators, this wasn't just a question of what happened, it was a question of why. In that instant, the lives of AJ's children, family and community were forever altered. A mother taken from her children, a neighborhood left grappling with grief, and a nation forced to confront questions about race, fear, and accountability. Susan claimed she acted out of fear. Many began to ask, was this truly self-defense? Or was there something deeper, something far more troubling, fueling her actions? Do you think Susan felt truly threatened? Or was there something deeper fueling her actions? The days following AJ's death were filled with grief, anger, and unanswered questions. Her family, friends, and neighbors came together to mourn the loss of a mother, a friend, and a cornerstone of their community. But their pain was not confined to their small neighborhood. It resonated across the nation. Neighbors who knew AJ described her as a loving mother and a pillar of strength, while others recounted the tense encounters with Susan. Stories of past disputes and frustrations began to emerge, painting a picture of a conflict that had been building for years. For AJ's family, the loss was immeasurable. Her mother, holding back tears, described her daughter as a light in this world, a protector of her children, and a woman of deep faith. They vowed to seek justice, not just for AJ, but for the 4 children left without their mother. Word of AJ's death spread quickly, igniting protests and calls for justice. What had started as a personal tragedy now symbolized larger societal issues: racial tensions, the misuse of power, and the controversial interpretation of self-defense laws. The case became a flashpoint, sparking debates about the Stand Your Ground law and whether it protected individuals or enabled unjustifiable violence. For many, AJ's death was a stark reminder of the racial inequities that continue to persist. National media outlets picked up the story, amplifying the voices of those demanding accountability. The attention brought a wave of support for AJ's family, but also highlighted the challenges of seeking justice in a deeply polarized society. AJ's death was no longer just a tragedy. It was a call to action. For her family and community, it wasn't enough to grieve. They wanted change. They wanted justice. AJ's life was cut tragically short. Her story has become a symbol of resilience and a rallying cry for change. Her children's loss is a pain no family should endure. But her legacy now carries the hope of a brighter, fairer future. What do you think should happen to ensure justice for AJ and her children? Share your thoughts below. The legal battle that followed AJ's death was as emotional as it was contentious. For her family, it was about justice. For the life of a devoted mother, a cherished friend, and a pillar of the community. For Susan Lawrence, it was a fight for her freedom, as she claimed self-defense in a case that had already gripped the nation. Days after AJ's death, Susan Lawrence was arrested and charged with manslaughter with a firearm, culpable negligence, simple battery, and 2 counts of assault. Her arrest followed an intense investigation that included testimony from neighbors, AJ's children, and forensic evidence from the scene. Neighbors painted a picture of a woman frequently at odds with those around her, particularly children who played near her home. Testimonies revealed a history of verbal altercations, threats, and a growing sense of hostility. But could these accounts prove intent, or were they simply circumstantial? The trial began with AJ's family and supporters seeking justice, while Susan's defense team argued that she had acted out of fear. Central to the case was the controversial Stand Your Ground law, which Susan's attorneys cited as justification for her actions. Testimonies from AJ's children, neighbors, and law enforcement painted a damning picture of Susan's actions. The prosecution argued that Susan's decision to fire through a locked door showed reckless disregard for life, while the defense maintained that she genuinely feared for her safety. Evidence presented in court included the bullet's trajectory, which confirmed it was fired through a locked door, and forensic analysis that debunked claims of imminent threat. Neighbors testified about Susan's history of hostility, while AJ's family shared heartfelt accounts of her character and devotion as a mother. Susan's testimony was a pivotal moment in the trial. She described feeling threatened and cornered, insisting that she had no intention of taking a life. But her admission of past altercations and the evidence of premeditation, such as her prior research on self-defense laws, raised doubts about her credibility. After days of deliberation, the jury delivered their verdict. Susan Lawrence was found guilty of manslaughter with a firearm. In November 2024, she was sentenced to 25 years in prison, a decision that brought mixed emotions to AJ's family and supporters. For AJ's family, the verdict was a step toward justice, but far from closure. They had lost a mother, a sister, a daughter. No sentence could bring AJ back, but they hoped it would send a message that such tragedies should never happen again. The case reignited national debates about the Stand Your Ground law and its application. Critics argued that the charges should have been more severe, pointing to evidence of racial bias and premeditation. Supporters of the law maintained that Susan had the right to defend herself, sparking heated conversations across the country. Through it all, AJ's family remained steadfast in their mission. They called for reforms to self-defense laws and greater accountability for acts of violence, determined to ensure that AJ's legacy would lead to meaningful change. The verdict brought some measure of justice, but the questions lingered. Was 25 years enough for a life lost? And how can communities ensure that such tragedies never happen again? Do you think the sentence was fair, or should the charges have been more severe? Let us know your thoughts below. G.K. Owens was more than just a mother, a neighbor, or a community member. She was a beacon of love, strength, and resilience, a force that touched everyone around her. Her life, though tragically cut short, continues to inspire those who knew her and countless others who now know her story. Through her devotion to her family and her unwavering commitment to her community, AJ taught us what it means to truly give of oneself. Her legacy is carried on by her 4 children who embody the kindness, strength, and perseverance she instilled in them. Her family has taken up the mantle of her legacy, turning their grief into action. They've become advocates for reforming self-defense laws, addressing racial bias, and ensuring that tragedies like this never happen again. AJ's name is now synonymous with justice, resilience, and hope for a better future. What can we do as a society to ensure tragedies like this never happen again? Share your thoughts below. Together, we can honor AJ's legacy by working toward a safer, more just world. Thank you for watching and for joining us in honoring AJ Owens' life and legacy. We invite you to share your thoughts in the comments, like this video, and subscribe for more stories that matter. Together, we can make a difference.